All right, what's up, everybody? And welcome to this live stream. Today, it's me and Nick Nassos. He's been on a lot of the betting vids in the past, so if you recognize him from there, that would explain it. And today's episode, we wanted to do a Green Bay Packers offseason planning, comprehensive. So we're going to try to cover every topic there is for the Packers this offseason, all the main ones, some ones that maybe people haven't thought of too much. But so the agenda today is we're going to be talking about Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. So that situation with the running backs. We're going to go into some draft needs and then as well as the picks that we have. Then we got Aaron Rodgers' future. So what is that going to hold? Will they go with Jordan Love soon? This offseason plays a big role in that. And then players to restructure or cut, free agents from our team, and then as well as the open market that we got to sign. So without further ado, the first topic is going to be Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. So, Nick, should the Green Bay Packers re-sign either of these two?
So Aaron Jones, he had a great season for us, but I think he's just going to be too expensive. He's a guy who can make 8 to 11 million a year. The Packers showed a lot of promise with AJ Dillon, and I think we bring Jamal back, maybe 1 year, 2 year, 5 mil a year. So 2 year, 10 mil deal. That would be perfect for me. And I see us letting Aaron Jones go. I don't think we'll sign him again, but I would like to bring Jamal Williams back to split the backfield with AJ Dillon.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, I'm with you on Aaron Jones. So earlier in the year, the Packers offered him top 5 money. And the main reason he didn't take it was because of the guarantees. We don't know the contract, but the average was top 5 money, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guarantees were missing. He got a new agent after that. And basically, he's been rumored to all these places like the Jets and Dolphins are the main two.
Yep.
And then Jamal Williams, I'm with you. I think we should re-sign him. And here is my thought. So a 3-year deal where the first year is like there's not much. It's like maybe 2 million or whatever. But the final 2 years are like 5 or 6 million each. So if you think of Tariq Cohen's contract, I would say he's like a comparable guy. They're both backups. They don't have similar play skill or play. They don't have similar like play skills or like sets and dynamics. Obviously, Jamal Williams is a stronger runner. Tariq Cohen's a better receiver and all that. But I think they're in that same like realm of backups that are really, really good. Maybe couldn't hold the backfield themselves. So yeah, I think they'll get him back. And how much would you want to sign him for, like on average?
5 mil a year, but you said 3 years. I don't really like 3 years. I'm gonna be honest for Jamal Williams. He's
Okay.
never been a lead back, and I could see him being a lead back this season. I think he might be the lead back the next season, but I really do think AJ Dillon is going to evolve. And in 3 years, I definitely see AJ Dillon as being the lead back in the Packers backfield. And I don't think Jamal Williams should be making too much money in that third year. I could see him making money for these next 2 seasons, but
Yeah.
I don't think a third year would be good because I think that's when AJ Dillon will be ready to take over as the lead guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the thing that why most running backs I'm scared to give like a 3-year deal is because they have a ton of tread on them. They're the guy who's taking the bulk of the carries. But Jamal Williams isn't that. He doesn't have to take all the carries. He's not ever really been a starter except when Aaron Jones was injured. I think it was 2017 or 2018 was the year towards the end when he started a lot. So yeah, maybe 3 years would be a bit long though, because just the shelf life in general, and then if they draft a guy, that's definitely an option. But yeah, and Jamal Williams himself has come out and said he wants to be a Packer for life, which is pretty exciting. I think he definitely brings like a culture and sort of a nice energy to the squad that like Aaron Jones brings it too, but it's just different with Jamal. Like you'll see him out there like dancing pregame and all that.
He's a fun guy. He's dancing during the game after first downs, during kickoffs. He's always having fun out there on the field.
Yeah, he's getting up and he's dancing like that. And then I did want to point this out. So yes, Jamal, we're doing good. We're talking Packers today. Glad you all could make it. And now we can get into the next topic here. And that's the running backs situation again. but with the draft involved. So it's a lot of signs are pointing to they're not going to sign Aaron Jones. That just does not look like a feasible option at this point.
Mhm.
However, we have the draft. We have picks, which we're going to talk about. So they have 10 picks in total. We'll get to that later, but they have a lot in the later rounds. Do you think they should draft a running back, Nick, and when should they?
I do think we could take a running back. I don't think we should take a running back early. We took A.J. Dillon in the second round last year after taking Jordan Love in the first. I don't think the Packers should even think about taking a running back in the first 3 rounds because there's other things that need to be focused on first. But 4th round, 5th round, I could see the Packers taking a running back and just seeing how it plays out.
Okay, I'm with you on that. So if they don't sign Williams or Jones, I would probably say pick up a running back in the draft in the later rounds, and then probably a free agent too. They need to get 2. They need to have 2 or draft or get 2 in free agency. Like, I don't think you can just run in with A.J. Dillon, Dexter Williams, and Tyler Ervin. I don't think that's feasible.
You're counting Jamal Williams as free agency, so you think if we do get Jamal Williams, then one more guy, and then also A.J. Dillon?
Yeah, if they sign Jamal Williams, I'm thinking probably I would say draft at that point, mainly for cost reasons. Like, I would just take a guy who's like either a scat back or like a receiving option that brings that explosive spark. But if they don't sign Williams, I'm saying they need to get a free agent and they also need to draft a guy, or they just draft 2 guys. I think they need 3 running backs, and then Tyler Ervin is basically how I see it. I don't think Dexter Williams is going to be a starter unless there's like tons of injuries.
If we don't get Jamal Williams, if the Packers decide not to sign him, I don't think we can only draft 2 running backs. I think we will have to go to free agency and definitely get some guy who has some experience, because if we draft 2 guys that have A.J. Dillon as like the oldest guy, there's just going to be no one there to mentor them. A.J. Dillon still needs to be mentored. He showed a lot of promise at the end of the season, but he's not ready for that lead role yet.
I'm with you. And then free agents, we're going to talk about those later. We have 2 guys in mind that could be cheap. And then here's another guy who I just thought of, mainly because the Niners thought, but Frank Gore. Do we get Frank Gore?
Frank Gore has become the lead back for the teams he has played for the last 3 or 4 seasons. And as a Packers fan, I don't like the idea of Frank Gore being our lead back, especially if we're playing deep into the season, or we need someone who not only gets us to the playoffs, but gets us to the Super Bowl and through the Super Bowl. And I don't know if Frank Gore could hold up for that entire season as well as the postseason.
So the thing with him, though, is he wouldn't have to be the lead back. And those teams that he did become the lead back for, they were like actually they had terrible running backs. We've seen what A.J. Dillon hasn't proven much, but when he has played, he's looked good, right?
Yes.
He was on the Colts. He was on the Bills. He was on the Jets. Those guys, like, they still don't really have great running backs until the Colts drafted Jonathan Taylor. The Bills drafted Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. I wouldn't be completely mad at Frank Gore, but I also just not – I don't know.
Frank Gore is not my first pick. I can say that with confidence.
Yeah, Jerick McKinnon would be interesting. The only thing is injuries with him. Like, he has potential. We saw him play on the Vikings. He was really good. Any running back in Shanahan's system's good, right? I mean, he's fast. That's all you really need to be good in Shanahan's system, I feel. What do you think about McKinnon?
McKinnon's an interesting one. He's had a lot of injuries in the past.
He has potential.
But he does have potential. I remember when he went to the 49ers, he got injured right before the season started. But then the next year he did show that he can still run the ball. The injuries didn't push him back too much. And McKinnon's an interesting one you bring up. I wouldn't be mad signing McKinnon.
Yeah, he would be really cheap too. So he got the bag when he went to the Niners. He got like $8 million a year. He was one of the highest paid backs.
He did.
So he would be interesting. And then another guy too, just another former Niner, Matt Breida. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent now. Really fast. When he had the opportunity on the Niners, he looked good. He did look good. But again, another guy that just isn't really big enough. His body's not built like that where he can just sustain hits, and he got injured a lot. Would you be interested in him or the thought of him at all?
I'm not too interested in Matt Breida. I don't think he can run between the tackles for an entire season, taking those hits game after game, drive after drive. He's more of a guy you bring in for a couple plays, but he's not. I don't think he could be a workhorse for us.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So I think that covers the running backs well. We're going to get back to it a little later, but we can talk about the draft. So here's the picks we got. We have one pick in the first 3 rounds. Fourth, we have 2. So we have pick 125, and then so Blake Martinez got that 3-year, $30 million deal to go to the Giants. So we got a 4th from that. Brian Bulaga, Iowa, he's getting us a 5th rounder. I think he got like 6 or 7 million. He didn't really even play much on the Chargers, but he got a nice contract. And then Kyler Fackrell, that's his nickname. It's Kyler Fackrell. He's also on the Giants. He got a really cheap contract. And then a couple of guys that don't affect, or one or two guys that don't affect us, I believe, are Funches and Kirksey. Or no, sorry, Rick Wagner. So they were
still on the team.
Yeah, so they were released from their team, or sorry, from our team recently, and we'll talk about that later. And then we have 1 7th rounder. So we have 10 picks, which I'm pleasantly surprised at, honestly. You know, the more chances you have to get good players, the better. And so we can start with our needs. So our 5th biggest need is going to be inside linebacker. So Nick, do you want to explain a little bit about this man? Why is it a 5th need and not higher?
So inside linebacker, very important position. The Packers need to be able to stop the run. They need to be able to create pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And this is something the Packers need to address. There's stuff that the Packers need to address more, though, which is why inside linebacker falls to 5th. Neither I nor Blake would be too upset getting an inside linebacker in the 1st or 2nd round. We just think that there are positions that need to be addressed first.
Right. And I think the way the Packers have tended to draft in the last decade, I feel like we haven't had a really, really good inside linebacker since Desmond Bishop. And that was like 2010, 2011. Blake Martinez had a lot of tackles, but he couldn't cover. And a lot of those tackles were after the guy got 5 yards. And whether that was down to scheme, I know we've never had the best interior D-line, like just huge dudes. So that obviously doesn't help a lot. But I would not be opposed to going with an inside linebacker in the 1st round.
Neither would I.
And then one guy who I've really liked and looked at a little bit, I want to watch more of him, but Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, he's the Notre Dame linebacker. So he's projected to go 1st round. I don't know if he'll make our pick is probably the biggest issue. 2 teams that would definitely look heavy at him are the Raiders. They might have signed. They did sign Corey Littleton last offseason, but they still need help on the defense pretty much everywhere. And then the Browns, they started B.J. Goodson and Taki, and we cut B.J. Goodson last year. And yeah, their linebackers are pretty bad. They could also go other ways too, but those are 2 of the big needs. And one reason why I like him a lot for our scheme is so we have Kamal Martin and we have Chris Barnes. Barnes is a really good thumper. Both of them showed flashes, right? Like they weren't great by any stretch of the imagination, but they did a pretty good job for the expectations. But neither of them are the best in coverage. And Owusu Koromoa is a really rangy linebacker. He can get sideline to sideline. He hits really hard. I would love this dude on our team if we did decide to go that route in the 1st round. I don't think we will.
I don't either.
We've neglected this position literally forever, so it's unlikely. And then the next need, the 4th biggest need is going to be offensive tackle. Why do you think this is the 4th biggest need?
Well, first of all, we just cut Rick Wagner, so he's gone. He was on our line. And Bakhtiari, he tore his ACL late in the season. That's usually an injury that can take up to a year to recover from, so he probably won't be ready to go the first few weeks. And the Packers, they love bringing in offensive linemen. they love developing offensive linemen, and they don't love re-signing offensive linemen. So it's kind of a cycle with the Packers. We bring in new offensive linemen every few years. We turn them into good linemen, and then we kind of move on to new, fresh legs. So Bakhtiari, obviously, when he comes back, will still be an all-pro, I'm sure. He's very good at football, and he'll be able to handle his own weight. On the other side of the line, we have Billy Turner, and he's a guard, but he can play tackle. He can play right tackle. I think he'll play right tackle at the beginning of the season. Even if we do draft someone, I think we'll wait a few weeks before throwing him out there onto the field protecting Aaron Rodgers. So we need an offensive tackle, and I think we're going to draft one early, maybe second round, maybe first round. It depends what's going on, where people are falling.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so offensive tackle. And to go off that too, so Bakhtiari in the left tackle. The inside is probably our strongest. Linsley might be gone. Not really sure. So historically, the Packers don't sign linemen to third contracts. Two guys off the top of my head, TJ Lang and Josh Sitton. So when they got to their third contract, they'd had a few injuries. Those guys were both guards. We let them go. Sitton went to the Bears, and then TJ Lang went to the Dolphins. I'm pretty sure Sitton also went to the Lang went to the Lions.
Lang went to the Lions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we historically just cut them or let them go after the third contract. I think that'll happen again. Elton can play anywhere on the interior. I think John Runyon wouldn't be a bad guy to just have in there. Like he did a fine job when he came in the early weeks. Lucas Patrick can. I'm not excited or thrilled about him being in there, but like it could be do it. It could be Don Barclay, right? It could be Don Barclay. And then they also drafted two other guys who we haven't seen much action from. I think one was a center and one was a guard. So I think the interior is fine, especially if Billy Turner can play right guard or right tackle. But if we have any injuries, that's where we kind of get in a hairy situation, especially on the tackle side. Like Bakhtiari is already going to miss the first week or two. Mm-hmm. So that's an issue. And then if Turner gets injured, as much as we like Elton Jenkins, this man can't play like elite at every single position. So I think they'll definitely go tackle here, at minimum O-line. And then I did want to throw in one name, Elijah Vera Tucker. So he's an O-lineman on USC. And one thing with him is he can play tackle or guard. And the Packers clearly value that, as they have Billy Turner and Elton that can play they can cover any position on the O-line themselves. So I really, really think he wouldn't be a bad target in the first round. Hopefully he falls. It all just depends on the board. All right. And next we have the need that is still a need from last year. That was probably our biggest need last year that we neglected, except for undrafted free agency in an amazing draft class for receivers last year. And this year, it's also amazing. I don't know. It might honestly be better.
This year's better than last year, I'd say.
It's really close, though. It is really close. I'd say the top talent this year might be a little better than last year with Chase and Smith, but they're both really good. Tons of depth. What do you think about receiver position?
All right. So Rodgers needs another weapon. He has Davante Adams. He has Robert Tanyan now, but Rodgers needs another receiver who he is confident he can go to with the ball whenever he needs to. When he's in a jam, he needs someone who he knows can create space. This is very important. I do not think we should take a wide receiver in the first round, though. I'm very against drafting wide receivers in the first round. You don't need the best receiver. We just need a receiver. And second round, third round, maybe fourth, hopefully second or third, though. Yeah. That's when I think the Packers should take a wide receiver. It'll give Rodgers another weapon. It'll give Davante Adams I'll take some pressure off Davante Adams because right now on third down, Rodgers looking for Adams. There were goal line drives. Rodgers would throw the ball to Adams 3 straight plays because that's all he had. That's who he trusted the most, and that's who was going to make a play. Other receivers, Equanimeous St. Brown, he drops the ball. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he is very fast. He can create space. He catches the ball most of the time, but he does have some crucial drops. Alan Lazard, I hope we can bring him back. I think he could become better, but Rodgers needs a second receiver, and the draft is a place to get one, just not in the first round.
I'm with you on that. There's tons of talent. Second or third, I wouldn't be mad with the second round one, honestly, because there is tons of good ones. My thing is this, though. Would you want a slot guy or an outside receiver?
I want another outside receiver. I want someone who's completely across the field from Adams. They're not even near each other. They're not ever playing on the same side of the field. I want another slot, or not a slot receiver, another outside receiver.
Because Tay and Lazard can both play in the slot. MVS is more of an outside guy. If Lazard is the number 3 receiver, Marquez would be honestly a good 4 for as much as,
He's still a deep ball threat. He's one of the best deep ball threats in the league.
Exactly. And we know what Tay's going to do. Tanyan's coming into his own big red zone threat, but they are going to miss that other X factor playmaker with Aaron Jones most likely gone. Not that running backs are replaceable. It's probably the most replaceable position, but you still need people that can go the distance on any play. So, yeah, I'm with you. For prospects wise, I mean, there's just a ton of dudes, honestly.
There's so many wide receivers.
And there's tons of free agents too. You have, expensive guys, and then you have cheaper guys, like people we'll talk about later. But yeah, there's tons of receiver talent. So that's an interesting one. And next,
one more thing I want to mention with receivers is Devon Funches. We forgot to bring him up. He'll most likely be coming back. He took the year off because of COVID. He also was injured and didn't play the year before. So he hasn't played for 2 years. We don't really know what's there. That's why we still think we need a wide receiver. Devon Funches, maybe he'll be a happy surprise. Maybe he'll be back to what he was when he was at his best, and maybe he'll have a great season for the Green Bay Packers. Maybe he won't have too many drops. He'll create space, but we don't want to put our trust in Devon Funches, which is why we still want to go out and get another receiver early second or third round.
Yeah. I mean, he had his best year, 4 years ago with Cam as his quarterback?
It was back on the Panthers, and I don't even think he was the wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
I think that's when they had Travis Benjamin.
Kelvin Benjamin. Yeah. Crazy how that man's career's gone. But anyways, so the next need, interior D-line. Why do you think this is up there, Nassos?
All right, so Kenny Clark, he is great. We gave him a lot of money last year. He had a rough start to the season, but then LaFleur was like, all right, you got to start earning the money we're paying you. And he did. He stepped up his game. He started playing better. But he's not going to stop the run on his own. He just needs someone to help him. And that's where the draft comes in. First round, second round, probably first round. I think we could get an inner D lineman, and it would just help stop the run. We need to be able to stuff the run more because we're getting to these third down and short situations, and they're just picking up first downs every time.
And it would also help, too, with, our pass rush. If we had another guy inside that could, push the pocket back a little bit. I think we also saw what Vita Vea did in the Super Bowl. And he was one of the main reasons Mahomes wasn't able to step up because the pocket was just getting pushed into his lap, and then he'd have to go outside, and then you have Shaq Barrett and JPP sitting there. And then for our team, if Kenny Clark and then whoever we either pick up or draft are pushing the pocket back, Rashawn Gary, Zadarius Smith, they're going to have an easier time getting around the edge. And then it also just helps a tremendous amount in the run game, clogging holes, and it would allow more space for Chris Barnes, Kamal Martin, and then anyone to just, run freely. So, yeah, interior D lineman's definitely a top need. So right now on the depth chart, it's Kenny Clark, Lancaster, Dean Lowry, Kingsley Keke. And honestly, I'm not mad about Lancaster. I'm fine with him. If he's the third or fourth guy, that's totally fine. He does his job good enough. Kingsley Keke's pretty young. He's had big moments. If you remember the Saints game, he had 2 sacks.
He did.
He can develop into be someone like a rotational pass rusher, just a guy in the rotation that you're not completely mad at. And then Dean Lowry, I'm not the biggest fan of. We'll talk about him a little later. And then also Montrevius Adams. We took him in the 3rd round a few years ago. Hasn't really stayed healthy or been too productive.
No.
So, yeah, that's a big need. We'll talk about the free agency aspect of that position in a little bit. And then here we have the number 1 need. Why is this the number 1 need, Nick?
All right, cornerback. That's what the Packers need the most right now. Me and Blake both
Mhm.
agree that cornerback, if right, first round, that's what we got to take. That's what we need. Jair, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He's probably a top 3 cornerback in the entire NFL.
Number
He's one of my
one.
favorite players on the Packers. Yes, PFF has him ranked number 1. And he's an all-pro, second team, still all-pro. And he needs someone to help him on the other side of the field. You could see it in the playoffs. Jair literally had a game where he allowed 1 reception for -3 yards. That is amazing. If we had one more corner who could be not as good as Jair, just close to what Jair can produce, we would have a lockdown defense. We'd have more time to get to the quarterback, and we'd get more pressure. And if we have another cornerback, it'll just create so much more for the defense than just stopping the ball. And it was seen against the Bucs that one cornerback was targeted a lot, and he allowed a lot of, he was injured, but he allowed a lot of big plays that really hurt the Packers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so off that, so Kevin King's a free agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not too sure if he'll be resigned. Tough to say what he would get on the market, especially, he's kind of leaving a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. But I would not be that opposed to bringing him back. He did have a bad game. He has had injury concerns and inconsistent play. But as a CB number 2, like when he's at his best, he can be an above average number 2 corner. It's just the inconsistencies are pretty worrying. And then behind him, Josh Jackson would be our other outside corner. Again, he was pretty inconsistent. He came in the league as a zone guy. We run more man. And, yeah, he's had a tough transition. And then our nickel cornerback, Chandan Sullivan, we could definitely improve there, but it's not like, a dire need. I'd say outside corner.
He's all right at nickel.
Yeah, he got picked on in the Bucs game. He's been picked on before, but he's not completely horrible, and it's not like 2016 or 2017 when we were going into the Falcons Stadium with a bunch of undrafted free agents and guys off the street. So I don't know. Corner's definitely a need. Kevin King, I wouldn't be mad if we got him back though.
I think we could get him cheap just because of his performance that every fan's remembering. I think at first I did not want to bring him back, but if we bring him back for very cheap, I'd learn to accept it.
Yeah, like he's not like I don't know. I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. Yeah, he did not play well at all. Like I'm not gonna say he played well or anything like that, but I still think he's a pretty good number 2 corner. Like you could do far worse than him. So those are the biggest needs that we see. I think this is pretty universal around Packers fandom of biggest draft needs. Whether they go corner, interior D-line, offensive tackle, or linebacker in the first round, I really wouldn't be too opposed. I would not like wide receiver in the first round. I think it stands pretty similar on that.
Yeah, I do not want a wide receiver in the first round. We're not going to get the best wide receiver in the draft. So there's just no reason for me to take a wide receiver in the first round when we can get one in the second that's close to the one we would have gotten the first, and we can use that first on a player who will be more valuable.
Yeah. And then a couple other things I did want to say, potentially edge could be something they look into dabbling in if Preston Smith does get cut. And then punter, I wouldn't be mad. J.K. Scott's I don't really think he's all that great. Like they could spend a 7th or 6th on a punter, and if he's better, like that's awesome. If not, like it's just punter, I guess. So it's not too big. But we can move on now. And then here's probably the most interesting thing about this Packers offseason right now is will they have faith in Aaron Rodgers finishing his contract? So here's the details of this. Basically, they could create a little over $14 million in cap space in 2021 if they restructure. And then restructuring is moving base salary to a signing bonus. So he gets paid immediately, and then that base salary gets spread across or prorated across the length of his contract. And so it becomes guaranteed at that point. And so the reason why it's huge is because if they want to go all in or start pushing right now for 2021, maybe get some free agents, sign some of our own guys, they have the means to do that by restructuring. But the issue or the thing that comes into play is they did draft Jordan Love. if they want to go to Jordan Love soon or they think he will start at some point, they might not want to do this because moving off of Rodgers, they would have guaranteed money left over. So, Nick, the question, do you think Rodgers will finish his contract in Green Bay? Will they restructure?
Well, first of all, congratulations to Aaron Rodgers. He got engaged.
Yes,
Big
that
deal.
is true.
Congratulations. And yes, I do think Aaron Rodgers will finish his contract in Green Bay. He just won MVP. He was the best player in the NFL this year. He threw 48 touchdowns. He had very few interceptions. Rodgers is going to finish his contract in Green Bay. We can restructure it. We can give him a new contract. $14.5 million is a lot of money to save. That's a lot of flexibility when it comes to other players that we want to sign in free agency. And if we are going to finish Rodgers' contract, we need to restructure it to that $14.5 million. And yes, the win now mentality is important. We need to go get players who won't be good a few years from now, but players who are going to be good this next season. We're ready to win 2 straight NFC championship games. It's time to get to the next level, get over that hump, win that game, win one more game, and be world champions. Aaron Rodgers, he's our guy. He's my guy. And Jordan Love, yes, we drafted him last year in the first round. It might be a wasted pick, in my opinion. If Rodgers, he could play 1 more year. He could play 2 more years. He could play 3 more years with the Packers. And Jordan Love, he might sit 1 or 2 years. We might trade him. But I'd be fine with just keeping Rodgers and either trading Jordan Love or just having him sit. I don't think we get rid of Rodgers because, it's Jordan Love's time. Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, and he is still one of the greatest quarterback in the league right now.
So, I'm a little bit at odds with this whole thing. I thought they should do this last offseason. I thought they should, go all in, win now mentality. And then they drafted a quarterback, a running back, and a tight end. They didn't really draft any receivers. They picked up Devon Funches. I feel like this team is not trending towards go all in right now. I kind of wish they would have starting last year. They have the opportunity. I don't think he'll finish his contract in Green Bay. I really don't. I think this front office wants to move on. I don't know why, but they drafted Jordan Love, right? And for me, they're not going to – I feel like it'd be very hard-pressed for them because I think this is Gutekunst's pick, right? This is Goody's, one of his first drafts. This is his quarterback that he took. I think he's going to want to ride with Jordan Love. But I also think the main reason is they didn't think Rodgers would do this good this year. I don't think they thought Rodgers would come out in the second year of LaFleur system and do as good as he is. So
hold on. You said that last year you wanted to do this all in last year, and that we took the quarterback, the running back, and the tight end. And then what happened? We got to the exact same spot because we had the exact same team. So that should show this year we know we messed up. We know we didn't go all in, and we got to the same spot. All right, we have that same team again. We don't do anything. We're going to get to the same spot. But if we go all in, we can win 2 more games. All we need to do is win 2 more games. And we messed up last year. And I think we're going to learn from that. And I think this year we learned from last year and we're going to go all in.
Okay. So this restructuring has actually been talked about in the media, or there's been speculation about it at least. But here's the thing. Why would they not just do that last year then? I feel like this team's moving more and more towards the future, right? I feel like they're not going to do win now. I want them to. I would still love them to. And then that begs the question of what to do with Jordan Love. Do you just trade him for what you can get? Probably somewhere in the second round. If we remember Josh Rosen after his bad season, he got a really, really late second round pick. I feel like Jordan Love would be worth more than that. But I think they will move on to Jordan Love. My prediction was after this season is when they will move on to him.
Rodgers was drafted in 2005, and he didn't start till 2008. He sat for 3 years. Jordan Love has sat 1 year. The Packers showed that they are fine sitting a quarterback. I could see Jordan Love sitting this year. I could see Jordan Love sitting next year. And then I could see us making the decision that either trading him or bringing him in. But I think Rodgers has 2 more years at least. I really do.
Yeah. I would love for Rodgers to finish his contract in Green Bay. I think most Packers fans would. There is the thing, though, here's the question, right? Do you think Rodgers can do better than he did last year?
I think he can do what he did last year.
Like to the same extent, right?
Yes. I don't see him throwing 50 touchdowns, but I see him staying under 8 interceptions every year for the rest of his career.
Do you
He
think
makes
he'll have
good
over 40
decisions.
touchdowns?
I do. Tom Brady just threw 40 touchdowns, and Rodgers is nowhere near Tom Brady's age.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. We've seen quarterbacks that get paid a lot, and he does. They struggle to go deep in the playoffs. Basically, since the rookie wage scale got changed in 2010 or 2011, all those quarterbacks have either been Tom Brady, who's paid cheaply compared to the player he produces, or it's been a quarterback on a rookie contract. Do you see any here? That's the thing, because Rodgers is getting paid a lot, and I'm not going to say he's not worth it. I totally give the man a blank check, but there is a point to be made that it's going to be hard to win with him if he's making $37 million.
So that's why. All right, let's free up $14.5 million with the win now mentality. We're winning this season. We can go out. We can get some free agent. We want to draft a wide receiver for a weapon. We can also sign a running back free agent, and we're going to draft a cornerback. There we go. We fix those. That's 3 needs right there. We fix, and I think that's enough to win 2 more games as long as Rodgers plays close to what he played this season in his MVP form. We don't need much more. We need a little more, but we don't need much more.
Well, here's the thing too, though, is we don't know if those picks are going to pan out, right? Those dudes could be bust.
They could.
We don't know about injuries. What if Davante Adams, Bakhtiari, and Elton Jenkins all get injured for long periods of time? I think over the last couple of years, we've had pretty good injury luck.
Yes, the last time we had bad injuries, we missed the playoffs. And then last 2 years, we have not had bad injuries. And
we've had I'd say we've had good injuries luck the last couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to maintain that. And so I think the point is that if you go to Jordan Love, if he can do 75% of what Aaron Rodgers could do, in getting as paid as how he is, our team could potentially be better off. Now, this depends on how good Jordan Love actually is, though.
I don't think Jordan loves 75% of Aaron Rodgers right now. I think he needs to watch a little more, learn a little more. Maybe we give him at end of games. We put him in this season, see how he is. If we're up a lot, if we're up a couple possessions, fourth quarter, put in Jordan Love. Let him get some reps because Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to go out there and throw 5 touchdowns a game. He just needs to win the game.
Yeah, if you're up 30 within the fourth, you can just put in the back.
This year, Jordan Love, if Rodgers got injured, Jordan Love wasn't even going to play. Tim Boyle was going to play. Jordan Love, he didn't even get dressed some games. He wasn't the guy. This year, obviously, I think he'll be the second string, but I don't think he's ready to be the captain and the leader of the team yet.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons that, and this kind of plays into your thought of with Rodgers, is by not exposing any of Jordan Love, no one knows what he's an unknown commodity at this point.
Yep.
If he came out and looked bad, his trade value would go down a lot.
It would.
It would go down a lot because that's all they would see of him. And I think that's one of the reasons is it helps preserve his trade value. So that way they have the option on the table. But yeah, basically, do you have anything else or any more thoughts on this? Do you think they will cut ties with Jordan Love?
I don't think we're cutting ties with either Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers the next 2 years. I think this upcoming season, one more season, and then we'll be back right where we are right now talking about this.
Interesting. Yeah, so I guess I can share my thoughts. I think they will, or at least here's my general thing is I thought they would put in Jordan Love into the start of his third year, so that'd be 2022. After this season, it's tough to say because Aaron Rodgers was the MVP, but it's an interesting thought. So will they restructure and free up a ton of cap space now, prorated over the remaining length of his contract, making it guaranteed the salary cap will jump? Or will they not not have as much guaranteed, so that way they are open to getting rid of Rodgers without as much dead cap space. It's interesting. Tough to say where it'll exactly go. There has been speculation of the restructure already. And then speaking of restructures, here is more ways we could make or create money in 2021. So the first guy, Adrian Amos, came over from the Bears. Thank you, Bears, for that. It's been really good for us. If we restructured him, we could save $2.95 million. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
All right. So first of all, just so everyone knows, restructuring, you want them to finish their contract if you're going to restructure them, because what you're kind of doing is pushing the money back when you're going to give it to them. And if you restructure and they don't finish their contract, you're going to have a lot of dead cap. The Eagles have $31 million in dead cap for Carson Wentz this year. That's a little exaggeration of like what other teams probably experience with dead cap.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest dead cap in history for one player. But so these players that we're talking about restructuring, me and Blake see a couple of them sticking with the Packers throughout their contracts, and a couple of them we don't know yet. So that's why we're still going to be skeptical if we're restructuring those players. But Blake and I both see Adrian Amos finishing his contract. I think he's got 2 more years.
Yeah, so all these guys, they have 2 more years. So basically, if they finish their contract, like it's honestly great for us. But if not, then there's a little dead cap.
Yeah. So $3 million for Amos. I mean, it's not a lot, but it is a lot. It can get us $3 more million that we can spend this year. And because of COVID, the cap this year will be a little lower since there weren't fans. It's projected to be. It was 170. I think now it's 180 million is the projected cap. It probably go up a little more from that, but the cap is lower this year than it was last year. And usually the cap doesn't go down. So the Packers are going to need to find ways to make room so they can bring back the MVP and Rodgers and also go with the win now mentality.
Yeah. So all this, if they were to, so we can go to Za'Darius. So Adrian Amos, Za'Darius, and Billy Turner. I think both of us want all 3 of those guys to get restructured.
Yep.
I'm very confident they will finish their contract. All 3 of those guys are on good valued contracts for the production they have. Now, the one in the top right is interesting, right? Preston Smith. So we could restructure him and create $5 million. And then he has like a pretty big cap hit next year. Or we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but we could cut him and save about $8 million. We wouldn't have to pay him next year either. So he's someone interesting, but $32 million, if they restructured these 5 players, a little over $32 million, that's a lot of money right now. That's like 1/6 of the cap space that could be created. Do you think we should do that for all these guys?
I think we should do it for 3 of them. I don't think we should restructure Preston Smith. I don't see him finishing. I see us cutting him. We'll talk more. I'll talk why I want to cut him later. Let's focus on the restructuring guys. So Za'Darius Smith, definitely one of our best players on defense. He gets to the quarterback. He has fun doing it. He's proved it 2 years in a row. We picked him up from free agency 2 years ago, and he's had 2 great years for the Packers. Billy Turner, got him from the Broncos. He can play on the right side of the line. He can play right guard, and he can play right tackle, and he's a good player. I want him around the next 2 years. And then Adrian Amos, he's just a fun guy. And he's a mentor for Darnell Savage, which is a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on those 3. Preston Smith, I'm kind of on the fence here. He could be a decent restructure if he lives up to his first year, and then the last 4 or 5 games of the 2020 season, he played pretty good. Yeah. It was just that the first 3/4 games, first 12, 10, 11, 12 games. He was playing at cornerback for some reason a couple plays. He really wasn't, holding his gap against the run, wasn't getting many sacks or pressures, and he really struggled. But he did pick it up towards the end of the year. Maybe that's more to come. Maybe he, came into camp like out of shape or whatever. I'm not going to speculate, but I don't think it's as clear cut as he's for sure gone. I think he probably will get cut, and we can get into that now. So we've already cut Ricky Wagner and Christian Kirksey freeing up about $10 million, a little over $9 million in cap space. Now, here's the other two guys that we've been thinking of. Should the Green Bay Packers cut Preston Smith or Dean Lowry? What do you
All
think?
right. So I do want to cut Preston Smith. 2 years ago, it was the Smith brothers. Preston Smith, they were just having fun. They were both getting a bunch of sacks. It was so much fun to watch. This year, it was Darius Smith and Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary, we got him in the first round a few years ago from Michigan, one of the highest rated high school players out there. And this year, he finally paid off. He showed us that, hey, he is a good player. And I see it being Rashawn Gary and Darius Smith this season and next season as well, which is why I don't think we need Preston Smith. I think he had a great year for us 2 years ago. He had a great end of the season this year, but he's not needed, and $8 million is a lot of money that can be used somewhere else for the Green Bay Packers.
Before we talk about Lowry, here's another thing with Smith. So we could free up a lot, like I said, in 2021. We could free up $3 more million if we cut him as opposed to restructuring. But here's the thing, too. If we do cut Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary or Zadarius gets injured, we are rolling out with like 6th, 7th round and undrafted free agents. And it's tough to say whether those guys will be healthy. So far they have been, like fingers crossed, right? But having him creates depth at a position that we've seen what our defense looks like when we don't have it. When we had the days of Nick Perry and Clay Matthews both washed and really not much, it was tough. It was hard watching that defense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my only thing with cutting him is, yeah, he's not worth his contract. I will say that right now. I do not think he's worth, $16 million or however much he is paid. But he's still a pretty good player. He's shown flashes in all the years he's been with us. If we can get him to play how he did the end of last year, I would be fine with restructuring him or keeping him. I really would be.
Okay, let's get into Dean Lowry now.
Yeah.
He'd save us a little over $3 million. Dean Lowry, he's all right. He's been a Packer for a few years, decent amount of time now. And I'd be fine with cutting him. I'd be fine with keeping him. I'm leaning towards cutting him, but he has shown he's never popped off. He's never had, oh my gosh, wow, what a season by Dean Lowry. He's had games. What a game by Dean Lowry.
Yeah,
he's never had what a season.
Touchdown or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm fully on the cut Dean Lowry train. I really did like him when we had him and he was pretty cheap and he showed like, hey, this guy's got potential. He's paid $6 or $7 million right now. And he's not bad. I feel like he really hasn't gotten that much better. And if we draft a guy, I think a rotation so it's 3-4 defensive ends, right? I think a rotation of Kiki, Lancaster, Clark can fill that role, if we go nickel or whatever. And then we either draft the guy high or we go into free agency. That I think that would be better than having Dean Lowry. I wouldn't be completely opposed to keeping him. I just think there's probably better options.
Yep.
All right. And now some potential free agent signings. So we talked about these guys a little earlier or mentioned the running back situation. I think me and you both want to sign a veteran if we don't retain either Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams, and then we draft a guy and pick up one of these two. Here's two names that I would be really happy with. So we could start with James White. So what are your thoughts on him, Nick?
All right. So James White, I like him a lot. He's cheap, too. I think we could get him for $3 million a year.
Yeah.
Give him a couple of years. And even if we get Jamal Williams, I'd still be fine with bringing James White in because he's a running back. He's not going to run 30 carries. He's going to catch the ball. And he's someone who we give A.J. Dillon a carry up the middle, and then we bring James White in, and we just give him a little screen route. James White is a running back who makes plays after he's given the ball. He is not told where to run. He has great vision. So James White, he can break tackles. He can. And I like him for his receiving aspect.
Yeah, so we all saw what him and Tom Brady did in the Super Bowl against the Falcons. And a lot of it was just dump offs to James White and watch him make a play. He's a tough guard for pretty much most linebackers, I'd say. You could throw him in the slot, and he would fill that Aaron Jones role of when we would, feed him the ball on the passing game. I think it was against the Chiefs and the Cowboys where he had 2 plays where he had huge just receiving options, and basically he was in the backfield. They split him out wide and then had him run a route on a slower linebacker, and he dusted him. I think James White could fill a certain role, especially if he was like our third guy, of being the pass catcher. I would love this. He's like 29, I believe. He shouldn't be that expensive considering how replaceable running backs are, but he definitely fills a need of just receiving out of the backfield. And we haven't had that. I mean, Aaron Jones was a pretty good receiver, but he wasn't like a specialist. James White is a specialist. He could play the slot, play out of the backfield. I would love him as our second or third running back and just a guy that comes in on passing downs to, catch.
All right. So let's talk about Marlon Mack now. Marlon Mack a few years ago for the Colts, he was a very good running back. He really was. A lot of people liked him. They knew who he was, and Marlon Mack was a good running back. And then he kind of disappeared for a little bit, and nobody really knows what happened. So
yeah,
I think he can be a very good running back again. I think I can see Marlon Mack being our lead back. And if he's not, okay, it's only 2, maybe 3 mil a year. And we'll have another guy who can be. But I could bring in Marlon Mack, and I could see him being the lead back for the Packers.
Yeah, so I really like this guy. He had a 1,000-yard season with the Colts. They drafted Jonathan Taylor. He tore his ACL, I think, before the season or during the season, early weeks. But he's a good runner. I think as a second, I mean, he could even be the guy that goes out there on first downs or second, but he's a good runner, good hard runner. And these contracts are just our guesses, mainly because of COVID and how replaceable running back is. I think that drives down their prices a little bit.
And the salary cap going down.
Yeah, exactly. Like the cap going down will help that. But yeah, I mean, behind a good line, Marlon Mack he's very serviceable, probably more than serviceable. I would be happy with either of those dudes if we sign, or if we draft a guy, or if we retain Jamal Williams. Preferably if we draft a guy, but if they're cheap and they want to come and they want to play with Rodgers and help us out, I would be totally A-okay with that. They're both pretty solid. And now we'll get into something a little more interesting here, and that's receivers. So which of these two do you think we should sign, Nick?
Well, if the Packers do what they love doing in the past and don't take a wide receiver in the second or third round, then Corey Davis is my guy. I like Corey Davis a lot. He would be a little expensive. He'd probably be $10 million a year, but if we're going to win now, let's get him for 1 year. And he would be a great wide receiver too. He was a great wide receiver too with the Titans. He was a wide receiver 1 until A.J. Brown became just an animal. And I like Corey Davis a lot. I can see him in a Packers uniform. I can see him, and Rodgers would definitely trust him because Corey Davis is a veteran wide receiver who has proven that he is good at being a wide receiver. And that's my guy. If the Packers don't draft someone, if the Packers do draft someone, I'd be more interested in Marvin Jones.
Okay. So I'm iffy on the Corey Davis for a couple reasons. One, the price. 10 mil is a lot for a receiver. But if he plays like he did this past season, he'd be good. But here's the other thing. His first 4 years, he really wasn't all that great, right? He was a top 5 pick, touted to be a really, really good receiver, a game breaker for the Titans.
Another reason you don't take wide receivers in the first round.
If you believe in that, sure. But he really didn't start producing like this until this past year. So maybe I'm not going to say he's a one-year wonder, but his production has definitely fallen off a little bit, in his first 4 years to what he was projected to do. And then Marvin Jones is interesting. He was a really good deep threat. I think he'd be an awesome number 2. He was really good on the lines. We had to play against him a lot. He would be the cheaper option. I know he has expressed interest in going to the Rams and following Stafford because he likes Stafford a lot.
Yeah, they work well together.
They're a really good duo, right? But I think he'd be great here. He's a deep threat. He could replace MVS's role or just the number 2.
Or you could have 2 deep threats.
Yeah, either or.
It'd be like the Chiefs.
Signing. Yeah, he'd be a nice signing.
I think Marvin Jones would turn the Packers wide receiving core, not to the talent of the Chiefs, but the style of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Corey Davis is more of a guy Aaron Rodgers is used to playing with that style. And I think Marvin Jones would kind of change that style. But if we draft a wide receiver in the second round, I think we go Marvin Jones.
Okay. And then here's an interesting point. Would you rather pay $10 million to amazing receiver 2 or $10 million to Aaron Jones?
I'd rather pay $10 million to an amazing receiver 2. Running backs are replaceable. We talked about how Jamal Williams can come in. We have A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
The agents available. We talked about a couple of them. There's many more, but I don't want to give Aaron Jones $10 million a year. It wouldn't be a 1-year deal. It would be a multi-year deal. Whereas Corey Davis is $10 million for 1 year. Win now.
I agree. I'd rather go receiver any day of the week. Mainly just because of value. Like running back is very, very contingent on the O-line, and receiver is too, with time for the quarterback. But I'd say running back is far, far more dependent on the O-line. And yeah, a second receiver that can get open and beat single coverage would be huge for us. Because as of now, doubling Adams can, obviously slow him down considerably. But Tanyan and Davis on the same team, it would be tough for one of them to not beat single coverage. I think that would be realistic. You could expect that. So I would love me a little Corey Davis. The only thing is that 1 year is his only good year, and it's his 5th year. I still think he'll be good. The price tag's a little concerning too, but he's a good receiver. And same with Marvin Jones. And then the next position, this is if we don't re-sign Kevin King, would be cornerback. Now, what is your thought process on these two, Nick?
I like them both. You're the one who actually got me on William Jackson. And he was very good for the Bengals. He really was. Not a lot of people know about him because he played for the Bengals, which it's not a big market and it's not a good team. But if he came to the Packers, so he was the cornerback 1 for the Bengals. If he came to the Packers, he'd be the cornerback 2, which means his numbers should be even better, technically, because he's not playing against as good of a wide receiver. And with William Jackson on the other side of the field from Jair, I just see a lockdown defense. I really like William Jackson. I think he's worth 10 to 12 mil a year, and I think we give him two or three, more than 1 year.
Yeah, I would like him a lot too. So, like you said, Cincinnati's not the biggest market. They haven't really been winning the last few years. He would be solid. He would really be solid. I think he'd be a step up from Kevin King. How much of a step up, that's to be seen. But yeah, he would really benefit from, having a lockdown on the other side of the field. It would be sweet having him. And then the other guy, Jason Verret. So he's a Niner. And here's the thing. He's had a ton of injuries. He's played 2 healthy seasons, and in those seasons, he was really, really good.
He was.
The only thing is, though, he has not remained healthy.
And that's a problem for the Packers defense. In the past, when the Packers defense, especially cornerbacks, have not remained healthy, it's been a big change in the Packers play. If we're relying on Jason Verret, we need him to stay healthy because the second he goes down, the Packers go down.
They're in the same spot as they were, they'd be in the same spot they were if they didn't have Kevin King.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they give him 8 to 10 mil and not a lot of it's guaranteed just due to his injury concerns. I like him, though. It would be pretty risky just due to that. But, if he stayed healthy, if we somehow got him healthy, he would be a really, 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 really good cornerback number 2. He was a beast for the Niners this year. And then here's a thought. So would you give Josh Jackson another shot? What are your thoughts on this? So
during the draft, we took Josh Jackson out of Iowa in the second round. And that was the same draft we took Jair in the first round. It was back-to-back corners. And after that draft, I really liked Josh Jackson going into that season. I really did. I like Jair too. And Jair obviously is way better. But I like Josh Jackson, but he just hasn't shown me what I've needed to see from him. Mm-hmm. I would not give him a shot at quarterback 2. I'd give him playing time, but I'm not relying on Josh Jackson to lock down a wide receiver when the game's in prime time.
So I mentioned this earlier, but he came in as a zone corner, really good ball skill. He had a ton of picks at Iowa, a ton of huge plays, but he hasn't really fit the scheme of the Packers all that well. And last year he played a pretty good amount. And I was not mad at how he played. He had a couple of defensive pass interferences, just over aggressiveness, but overall I thought he was a pretty good corner. I wouldn't be completely mad if they went the Josh Jackson route. It would just be the depth behind him would still be just pretty bad. And I don't know. I just don't like relying on like good injury luck. I'd rather have better depth because I think the guy after him would be Kadar Holman, who we drafted in the 6th round of last year. And so I'm pretty torn with this one. I don't think he's a complete bust. I think if we don't re-sign him or he doesn't get much of an opportunity to play, he will be. But he hasn't gotten that great opportunity yet for our defense. But I think he has potential still. I really do. I'm not on the complete hype train of Josh Jackson, whether that's because he's an Iowa guy or not. So be it. But I still think he has a chance to be a pretty good depth piece, maybe a starter. Also,
I just want to throw something in. It doesn't really go with the cornerbacks. Well, it goes with cornerbacks. It doesn't go with free agents, though. And the Packers just got a new defensive coordinator. Yes. So a lot of this will depend on what he does. And a great defensive coordinator, when they come in, what they do is they shape their scheme to fit what the Packers are already good at. But we'll see if he does that or if he just completely changes how the Packers are on the defense. Yeah. I think personally he's going to fit it around so that it's similar to the Packers defense we've been seeing, just adding a little twist, I guess I'd say, to it. Yeah, I don't see him completely changing the defense. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I believe he also runs a 3-4, so that's good too. So we can see like the same personnel. That just depends, So maybe William Jackson does things that he likes that Jason Verret doesn't do, or vice versa. And maybe he doesn't like Josh Jackson and he wants his own guys. That's very plausible as well. And now, the man of the hour, of the last few days of free agency this year, J.J. Watt. What are your thoughts, and should we get him? J.J. Watt, one of the best defenders in the league. He really is. He's great. He's right there with Aaron Donald. The problem is he gets injured almost every year. I do not see this man play 16 games ever. And that's a problem for me because if J.J. Watt is not able to stay healthy, then if we bring him in to help Kenny Clark and he's not there to help Kenny Clark, we're going to be in trouble because he's going to be expensive. And if we dish out that much money, that's win now mentality. And I think we can barely afford him. I really do, but I don't know if I want him.
Why don't you want him? Just because of injuries?
Just because of injury past. If he's healthy, I want him, but I don't know if he can stay healthy. He hasn't shown me that he can.
Here's the thing, right? I'm totally with you on the injuries. Like, it is a major concern to say the least. Mm-hmm. Can we afford him? If they restructure all those dudes or some of those guys, they can. And we don't know what he is going to go for. Is he going to take a cheaper contract? Or is he going to break the bank and like go with Cleveland, who has a ton of money, or another team like that? Like maybe the Bills, I know, are rumored for him. But I think we should get him. I think he could be huge for our pass rush. Imagine Zadarius, Kenny Clark, J.J. Watt, and Rashad Gary.
Yeah, it would be great. If he's out there, it's worth it. If he's out there, it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Injury history is a concern, and to mitigate that, maybe he could be in a more rotational where, maybe he only plays third down some games, or first half he's only on first and second down, something like that. But man, it is just – I think we should go for him. I think, this is Aaron Rodgers, like, last few years. Bring JJ home to Wisconsin. I think it would be a good signing. The money – it's tough to say what he wants, right? Because he could get a lot of money.
When he was cut, Twitter was just blowing up about him. Where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? There are like 5 teams, like Bills, Titans, Steelers, Browns, Packers. There's all those teams. And then the last few days, though, Twitter's gotten quieter. And I think that helps the Packers because the buzz is it's calming down, and I
Mhm.
really think that helps the Packers when it's quieter because the more hype, the more money, and the less hype, he's gonna get a lot of money. But
He could. I mean, what if he goes for just like a 2-year deal and he doesn't want a lot of money? He just wants to win a ring.
but if it's a 2-year deal at the Packers and it's a 2-year deal at the Browns for more, I still think he'd go to the Browns because yeah, they're an up and coming program. They really are.
Yeah, but it's more. I feel like it's more about location for him. I think he
Mhm.
wants to win a ring, and
Yeah, he
if
does.
he believes the best opportunity to win a ring is in Green Bay, or if he
Uh-huh.
wins it in
I hope he
Cleveland,
does.
I think he'll go to whichever one he thinks he has a better chance at.
Okay.
And his wife, I know, is also. I think she lives in Chicago, so there's been rumors of that. I don't think or know how much that really matters.
Well, she's a professional. She's a professional soccer player. She's always moving around.
Exactly. So I think we should sign J.J. Watt end of day. I think he'd be huge. If he's healthy, this could be of the magnitudes of Charles Woodson signing when he came in the elite level, or maybe on a more bearish note than that, Julius Peppers when he came over from the Bears. And he played some good
He
down.
did. I like Julius. I did.
He did a good job. He was like 34. He was definitely not in his prime or anything, but he was a really good outside linebacker for us for a few years.
He was.
All right, and that's going to wrap up this stream. Or sorry,
Free
wrap
agent.
up this topic. We got to talk about the Packers free agents now. And here are the names. Basically, we have it broken down into for sure guys that we need to sign, tender them, questionable that we could see it going either way. We have a few no's, like please do not sign this guy, and then unsure. We don't really know too much about them. So we can start with the for sures. So
All right.
Lazard, right?
Helen Zard, wide receiver. We need wide receivers. Hopefully we bring one in, and hopefully we bring him back. Helen Zard, he was kind of a wide receiver too last season. Helen Zard was not made to be a wide receiver too last season. He was injured part of the season, which also hurt him. Before his injury, I think he was leading the Packers in some receiving categories besides touchdowns, which was Devon Adams. I think he was leading, though, in yards a game. He really was until he got injured. And I like Lazard as our wide receiver 3 or 4. I want to bring him back, but I don't want him to be the wide receiver 2. We still need to address that position, even if when we bring Lazard back.
He's a really good blocker, pretty sure-handed, really fast for deep bombs. I think that Saints game, he had like over 100 yards, really showed out. I think this is a no-brainer. They have to get him. Next guy, Chandan Sullivan. So he was our nickel cornerback last year. He's not the best, right? Like he's serviceable though, and a cheap guy who's serviceable, you need to sign him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Sullivan, nickel corner. Hopefully, we're bringing another corner back, and he stays right there as our third corner. And yeah, he gets targeted. They do target him, but he can prove that sometimes he does stop them. He's good enough to be that third corner, and
Yeah.
I like him.
Next, Mercedes Lewis, big dog. I wouldn't be completely mad if they got rid of him. I just think he serves a good role as a blocker. He's still one of the best in the league. Really good locker room guy. I think they should sign him again.
Yeah, Mercedes Lewis, only first round pick that Aaron Rodgers has ever thrown a touchdown to. He has 3 or 4 of them. And I also like Mercedes Lewis, not because he just catches every ball that's thrown his way, but he's a good mentor in the locker room.
Exactly.
He's really taught Robert Tanyan a lot. And Mercedes Lewis is a good guy to have around. He brings up the energy. He teaches the young guys. He's a good mentor.
Exactly. Next, we have Lancaster. Like I said, serviceable, does his job, would be inexpensive. I see no reason why not to bring him back.
Yep, I'm right with you there on that one. Not much more to add there.
We have tight end Bobby Tanyan. So we would need to tender him. And so you could either do a first round, a second round, or an original. I'd say second round tender. So you get paid about $3 million. Pro Bowl snub, should have made it over Evan Ingram without a doubt. Really was our probably third option last year for Aaron Rodgers. I'd say outside of Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. What are your thoughts?
Bobby T, Pro Bowl snub. Evan Ingram had 1 touchdown when the voting went down. Tony had double-digit touchdowns. He's good friends with George Kittle. They work out together, and obviously they're both. I think he is a little better than George Kittle, if I'm being honest. George Kittle is pretty overrated. Robert Tanyan, we bring him back in, and I think he's he's not going to be our wide receiver too, but he's our tight end one, and he's making plays. He doesn't just make short catches for the first. He goes down the field. He gets wide open.
He's good. Next, Tyler Ervin. So he's like our fourth running back. He's also a returner. Hopefully Tavonne Austin's gone so he can take back those roles. And yeah, he just adds an element to the offense that's pretty invaluable to us, right? A lot of motion. Sometimes he'll get it. Sometimes he'll catch it. He could be decent depth if he's the fourth running back. I'm fine with getting him back again. He shouldn't be that much as well.
I have a love-hate relationship with Ervin because he does fumble and he does run backwards on punt returns, which is very frustrating for me as a fan to watch. But he can be a wide receiver and he can be a running back. He's kind of like a Ty Montgomery to me, and I want to bring him back. He's not going to be expensive, and he won't fumble. He won't.
And then Raven Green. So he's like the nickel linebacker safety convert. I think our defense is solid when he's in there. He's pretty, fast. He's really strong. He's had injury issues is the only thing. I think we should definitely get him back. Our defense is better with him than without him, and he definitely serves a role that we drafted Josh Jones to fill, but he couldn't. He was a little too undersized. But yeah, Raven Green would be solid.
Yeah, Raven Green, he's a little underrated, and he plays with emotion. He hits hard, and he gets up, and he's always on fire. He's always lifting up his brothers out there on the field, and it's fun to watch him. It really is.
And then the next guy, Randy Ramsey. So basically, he's like our fourth outside linebacker right now. That's the main reason I'd say we have to bring him back, just because we don't have any more depth there. Really, not much to say on him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yep, we gotta bring him back.
Billy Wynn. So he's a D end. He's just a big dude, and when I've seen him in there, like I feel like he does his job like just fine. Nothing like too crazy. Pretty decent run stuffer though.
Yep.
All right, and now we can move into the questionables. So these are guys that on the fence about. So first one, Corey Linsley. So why is Corey Linsley questionable, Nick?
Because I think me and you both want him to come back, but also know he's probably not going to come back. Yeah. I think that's why we have him as questionable. The Packers don't like giving third contracts to offensive linemen, but Linsley, he does a great job protecting Rodgers. He's a good guy. He plays the games, and I want us to bring him back, but I don't have a lot of hope that we will.
Yeah, I'm with you. He was a top 3 center in the league last year, top 3 or top 5, either or. So he's really good. But yeah, like I've said, third contracts, and they drafted a ton of dudes last year, and it looks like they're developing. So tough to say whether he'll come back. The next guy, Lane Taylor. So he was a guard that we had starting until we drafted Elton. He got injured. Elton came in, looked insane, has been really, really invaluable to our roster. Do you think we should sign Lane Taylor back?
For cheap, yes, because he's a good backup line. He was good before Elton went in. Before he gets injured. I think it's his ankles. He has some problem. He's always taping him up, but a lot of linemen are. But I do like Lane Taylor, and he's a good backup guard. He gets the job done, and he's someone I don't want him to be in because that means Elton's injured or maybe Billy Turner. But if he's in, I'll still feel comfortable.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like he'd be a really good backup on a vet min. Whether they like him more than the young guys that they drafted last year, that's to be seen. But yeah, I'd be cool with him back. And then Jamal Williams, we already talked about him. Yep. Kevin King, I'm more of on the side of like, let's bring him back. I know everyone's calling for his head because of what happened in the last game we played. Do you think he'll be back or no?
I don't think he'll be back. I don't want him back. I'd be fine if he was back, but I don't think he'll be back because 90% of Packers fans don't want him back. And he's kind of like the scapegoat for the last championship game.
Exactly. I would like Kevin King back if we couldn't get another guy in free agency. I know we've drafted guys high in Jair is really the only one that's really been all that great. Josh Jackson, Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins. All three of those dudes were really not all that great for us yet. And it's kind of tough to bank on, like, can we draft a guy to come in and be really, really good? That's my main reason for, like, wanting Kevin King back, to be seen how he acts, like, if he leaves or if he's good. Next, Montrevius Adams. What are your thoughts?
I'm indifferent on him. I'm fine with him coming back. I'm okay with us letting him go. He's a good player when he's out there. He's just not out there a lot.
Exactly, yeah. And we drafted him in the third round, and maybe that's why I'm a little more bearish on him, because I expected more. But he's shown to be okay, and then other times, the beginning of his career, he was really not all that good. I'd say probably no and roll with the younger guys, but it depends if they draft interior D-line or not. Maybe they need to bring him back. Next is Will Redmond. So I think he's our third safety. Yeah, he is our third safety. Unless you'd consider Raven Green ahead of him, I wouldn't, because Raven Green is more of a linebacker than anything. But do you think we should sign Will Redmond?
I do, because he's right behind Amos and Savage, who obviously Amos and Savage should be out there most of the plays, and they're great safeties. But then when they need to rest, Will Redmond, he's a good third guy. He's not starting safety, but he's a good third guy that I like to see out there on the field.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we should keep him. Tough to see like what they will do. He should be inexpensive as well. And the last guy, Damon Snacks Harrison, he played 1 game or 2 games for us
2 games
in the playoffs, and I think he was honestly pretty good. I mean, his role was basically just like be a run stuffer. I think he can do that for cheap. I think it'd be a great addition. I don't know if he wants to come back and play. He kind of didn't really want to play for the Seahawks mid-season. It's more of a question of like, will he want to play for us?
He kind of just wanted to get out of the Seahawks, and we're like, all right, here. And he did well. I liked how he played. And for cheap, yes, I'd want him. But if he's asking for more, if we're just a little uncomfortable on how much he wants, no, we don't need him.
Next, so these are guys that me and Nick agree, no way, just don't bring him back. First one's going to be Aaron Jones. We talked about this earlier. We're not going to go too much into depth on this. Next is Tim Boyle. So I think both me and you are like, all right, I think it's time for Jordan Love to step into that secondary role. If Rodgers is to go down, please don't go down. But yeah, like he's the de facto backup because he's been in the system, and I just think they're trying to preserve Jordan Love's value.
I like Tim Boyle. He was the preseason MVP a couple seasons ago, which was just fantastic to hear. He had like 111 passer rating in his preseason games. But yeah, Jordan Love's the backup. Tim Boyle beat up Deshaun Kaiser a couple years ago for the backup, but it's time to move on. And I don't think the Packers will draft a third string. I'm sure they'll just sign some either veteran or young guy in free agency that's an undrafted or probably an undrafted free agent. That's who I think our third string will be.
Something like that. And then Burgess, I don't really see the reason to bring him back. Not too many thought. Like again, like we don't really know too much about him. Haven't seen him play too much. And then the next guy, Tavonne Austin. So I actually had high hopes for him. I thought he could do something. He fumbled in the on a punt return, kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. He was okay as a gadget guy, but I don't know. I think Tyler Ervin could do exactly what he did. He caught like a screen or two. He really did not do all that much.
Yeah, when we signed Tavonne Austin, I was actually very happy. I was like, all right, we got a punt returner. We got a guy who can play running back and wide receiver. And I was like, all right, yay, Tyler Ervin. He's been fumbling. Tavonne Austin does not fumble punt returns. What you do on his first game, he fumbles the punt return. It was very, very frustrating for me. And then he had some great grabs where like he's kind of doing what we were talking about we want James White to do, where he was playing receiver from the backfield. And we just don't need that from him anymore. We're not going to get him back. There's no reason to get him back. He's gone. His career is probably just about over, and he's not going to be a Packer.
Yep. And then the next guys, Niedgeman, Taylor, Bento, and Nickerson. We don't really know too much about them. They're like the 53rd guys on the roster. So we're fine. If they come back, great. If they're gone, like it's not like too big of a deal. in our eyes.
Right.
And then another guy too, J.K. Scott, just throwing it out there. Maybe they cut him or not. I don't think he's a free agent this year, but it's coming up soon. And he hasn't been all that great. He looked solid and promising his first year. He looks like he's 15 years old.
Maybe 16 now.
Yeah, I mean, his tackling skills were pretty poor. I think he got duped out of his shoes twice. One, the Jacksonville Jaguars game was really bad.
It was annoying.
And then there's another punt return he allowed, and that's probably more on the coverage, but his tackling skills were pretty bad, and his average yards were nothing like spectacular. So if they draft a guy in like the 6th or 7th round, or even go for agency, fine with me.
Yeah. J.K. Scott declined a lot. He was very good his first couple of years. We got him in the 5th round from Alabama, and he was a good punter, but he wasn't that this year.
Yeah, and especially the guy who was drafted around him, Dixon, on the Seattle Seahawks.
That's the first team All-Pro right there.
Yeah, no, he's been spectacular. Maybe that's why we're a little down on him, because usually you don't draft punters as high as the 5th round, which is it's not even that like high pick, obviously, but still.
Yeah.
And so that's going to end this live stream. So this was the comprehensive Green Bay Packers offseason planning. We're going to cut these clips up in case you missed any of them, and we're going to post them in the next, hopefully, week. And so thank you guys for coming. Thanks for the questions. We truly do appreciate it, and we hope to be able to come back in the future with more Green Bay Packers content.